event is a lot about how we doing. Are we moving the needle? And we talked about that earlier, and are we actually making change here? But what about with consumers? Are we moving the needle with consumers? Here to talk about that from the Shelton Group, Suzanne Shelton.
Thank you. There was a question about whether that needs to be advanced. Yes, look, there's me. Great. How are y'all doing? How many people in the that normally live in the Eastern time zone do I have in the audience? Yeah, so it is well past cocktail hour on your body clock. And so part of my job is to try to get you energized and take you into the home stretch tonight. And for those of you that have heard me speak before, and frankly those of you that are hearing me speak right now, you know that I'm the fastest talking Southern woman you've ever met in your life. So energy will not be a problem. We'll get through this really fast. I'm happy to be here today and to give you some quick background in case you haven't heard me speak before, to set the context for my great idea. Shelton Group is the nation's leading marketing communications firm entirely focused in the sustainability space. It's all we do. It's not a practice area for us, and it's all we have done for the last decade. And for the last 9 years, we've been polling Americans on a quarterly basis to understand their attitudes and their behaviors related to energy and the environment, and more recently, corporate social responsibility. So knowing some stuff is cool, but doing something with the things you know is even better. So that's what we exist to do, is to help companies define and leverage their sustainability commitment to gain a market advantage. And the folks we do that for tend to fall in the energy space, building product space, consumer packaged goods space, and then increasingly we're working with companies that play in the B2B space and are looking to tell their sustainability story through the value chain. So I share all that with you to say that what I'm about to talk about comes from all those years of polling and all those years of experience working with these companies. And what I'm here to talk about today is the green consumer. Or frankly, I'm here to disabuse you of this notion of the green consumer. Joel Mackauer has a great joke that he sometimes pulls out, that he wrote a book called The Green Consumer long ago. And at some point he realized, hey, maybe I literally am talking about the green consumer. And so I'm happy to report there's more than one, and in fact, it's about 24% of the population. We call them actives. We don't call them the green consumer for reasons I'm about to get into. We call them actives because they are actively engaged in about 21 green behaviors on a regular basis, from taking their bags with them to the grocery store all the way out to unplugging chargers when they're not using them. So they're they're doing the stuff. And in fact, there's a little bit of guilt involved that it's only 21 green behaviors. Like, I should be doing 25, I should be doing 30. They feel a great degree of personal responsibility to make the world a better place and to do their part for the environment. And to that end, they not only put that kind of pressure on themselves, they put that pressure on you. They expect big things from the companies they buy from. They expect you, as an example, to treat people really well, pay them a living wage. They expect you to launch products that at the very minimum are made of recycled content, and at the maximum bio-based in nature, just as a couple of examples. So they set this bar really high for themselves and for you, and again, they're doing all this green stuff. So when I roll out that description in the context of this term, the green consumer, it tends to conjure up an image in your mind, and the image looks a little like this. And not to throw disparaging comments at this kind of person, but for many of you consumer goods makers in the room, as sustainable as you may be, there's a way in which you look at that picture and go, yeah, I don't really think she buys anything. That's a problem. All right. So what I want to do is disabuse you of this notion of the green consumer and this picture, this image in your mind. And I want you to get it that when I give you that description of the 21 green behaviors and deep personal responsibility and setting the bar really high for you, who I'm actually talking about is this person. And she's contradictory in nature. There are things that she does that you wouldn't expect the quote-unquote green consumer to do. For instance, she shops more often than most consumers. She's more brand loyal on average. She regularly pays more for brands she trusts. She prefers to buy new green products over used, and she's materialistic and happy about it. How can this be? You might be asking yourself, how can a green consumer be a materialist? And this requires us to rethink the notion of materialism. So in the context of actives, of this consumer group I'm talking about, We're not talking about materialism as like filling an empty hole inside oneself by surfing QVC at 2 in the morning. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about materialism as an external expression of internal values. So I would suggest many of the people in this room are actives. I'm an active, and we do buy stuff. And we tend to buy beautiful things and high-tech things. And we surround ourselves with things that represent meaning to us in some way, things that we might have stories to tell about. And so that's what we mean. This group is looking to make purchases that align with their values, to have some kind of extroverted way of showing the world what they believe in and what they stand for. So there's a real opportunity for many of you in this room with this consumer and with that mindset and with their notion of materialism. But it requires you to let go of this idea of the green consumer or this notion of tree huggers, and instead frame these people in your mind as brand huggers, because that's what they are. And to define them, we'll put it like this. They're a quarter of the American population. They're pretty well off. They actually are fairly affluent. They're educated. They shop often. They buy lots of new stuff. They pay more for brands they trust. And they're searching for meaning in those brands that they purchase, and they're actively seeking to buy from brands and companies with a sense of purpose that either aligns with or expands their own. So, guys, what I'm not talking about here in describing this group and talking about them as a really viable, desirable target audience, I'm not talking about unchecked consumption. You know, I'm not talking about an Austin Powers plot to sell millions of dollars worth of product to people who don't need the products. I'm talking about a consumer group that's really not niche anymore. It's a quarter of the population, and they are looking to buy from brands that they think are doing the right things. And by the right things, it's really 3 things. That you've created and committed to a deeper purpose within the 4 walls of your organization. And you're making decisions based on that purpose. And that purpose is about serving a greater good. And then secondly, flowing from that, you've really committed to the sustainability path. It's not about compliance. It's not about just keeping up with your competitors. And it's not about a marketing play. It is a true commitment. And then lastly, you're communicating about it. You're telling the story, and you're confident in telling your story because you know you've handled the purpose piece and you've committed to sustainability, so you can feel honest and pure and true as you tell that story, and you can do it in a way that is emotionally evocative and pulls them into your brand. So when you do those things, this group will want to buy from you. And they'll want to buy from you not because they want to hug trees, but because they want to hug brands. So the question to ask yourself is your brand one this group would want to hug? And if not, get going on those 3 things, because there is a tremendous sales and marketing opportunity here for you that frankly, together, by aligning yourself with this group, you'll be a better company, they'll be a better consumer, and we'll create the change that we want to create in the world. And that is my one great idea. Thank you.